Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to this video. This is the final video for the year 2023, and I'm just going to discuss my language journey in 2023 and how I will proceed with the languages that I'm learning moving forward into 2024. So my voice isn't that good just yet because I'm still recovering from COVID, but it's good enough for me to give an update and to make this video. So I have here with me the number of hours that I have accumulated in all the languages and the number of hours that I spent for the year 2023 only. So I'll start with Portuguese that I started in June of 2021. As of the end of 2022, I have accumulated 930 hours. And at the end of 2023, minus today, December 31st. So until December 30, 2023, I accumulated 1,310. So the total number of hours I spent with European Portuguese this year is 381 hours. And then next would be Russian, which I started at the end of 2021. So by the end of 2022, I had accumulated 465 hours. And at the end of this year, I've accumulated 758 hours. So that only gives me 293 hours of Russian for the entire year of 2023. Now for French, which I started at the end of 2022. At the end of 2022, I had accumulated 7 hours. And now, at the end of 2023, I now have 530 hours. So that gives me a total of 523 hours of French for this year. So, based on that, I spent more time with French, and then that with 523 hours of French, 381 hours of Portuguese, and only 293 hours of Russian. So moving forward, where my levels are at these languages, I could say that my Russian is just 0.5 higher than my French, which is really basic, even until now. Not a lot of progress with Russian, and I will explain it later on. So I want to start with Portuguese because it's the oldest of all the languages that I'm learning, and the total number of hours is the most. So I have 1,300 hours accumulated. Lifetime hours. Okay, so with the knowledge I have in Portuguese, what I have been doing in the last year was listening to songs. I recently watched the movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse entirely in European Portuguese. My first time watching it. So that means, although I know it's Spider-Man, I don't know exactly the plot of the movie. I don't know these different characters, and everything's new. So I'm only able to do that with a language that I'm at a higher level. Not native, but at least because with the help of the pictures in the movie, it wasn't that difficult to understand. Like, I'm at that level that I'm able to watch new content in European Portuguese. I also started reading Zahir by Paulo Coelho in Kindle. So the difference with reading things on Kindle versus Link is that Link will show me, it will be the words that I haven't encountered before will be highlighted, and then if I've encountered them once, twice, 3 or 4 times, they would be in different shades. So with Kindle, it's like as if you're reading a book. So just a hard copy book. And I don't use the dictionary settings. Like if I don't understand a word, I don't look it up. It's not what I use Kindle for. So I just read. So that gives me an idea of how far my level is with Portuguese, that I'm able to enjoy the book. Even if I don't understand exactly everything word for word, but I'm able to understand the context of the entire sentence as if I'm reading a book in English. And I bounce from listening to and reading to low, intermediate, and native content. So, for example, I still listen to the podcasts on Link by Portuguese with Leo, which is supposed to be for intermediate learners or lower advanced, I think, I think higher beginner, intermediate listeners or learners, because Leo speaks slower than normal, and clearly. Not a lot of not as fluid as if a native speaker would be speaking normally. I bounce from listening to that, and I also listen to native content. For example, on podcasts, on Spotify, I listen to El Resto é História and O Diário de Dia, both from Observador PT. So I do bounce around between the intermediate and the native content. And then I still repeat a lot of the intermediate content, and then I would listen to native content, and then if I'm interested in a topic, I would listen to it again. So it's a lot of bouncing around between intermediate to native, intermediate, and native content. With regards to speaking, my lessons are like few and far in between. I have an hour every other week or every 2-3 weeks with my oldest tutor. Like, he was my first tutor, and he's the tutor that I stuck with after all the other tutors that I have. And each conversation would be entirely different. We would be talking about different topics, and it's, of course, a different level compared to when I started in 2021. Now I can carry full conversations for an hour. At least I could say 85% in Portuguese. Sometimes I would have to, if there's some idea that's a bit complicated, I would have to say it in English, or I would do use simpler words in Portuguese, and but more or less I'm able to carry a basic, not really, maybe an intermediate conversation about various different topics. So that's where my Portuguese is at. My confidence is like top when it comes to Portuguese. I'm confident that even if I booked a flight to Portugal today, I'll be fine not using English, I think. And I would continue using it in 2024, watching movies, doing the same thing. I would still dedicate probably an hour of Portuguese per day just to keep it alive. Not ready to let it go yet. I want to finish reading the Zahir. I'm also reading 11 Minutos in my link, and probably continue with the hour-long speaking probably every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or every month to just continue with Portuguese. Now I'm going to talk about French first because I've spent a lot of time with French this year. 500 523 hours of French. So what I did in 2023 was listen to a lot of podcasts on Link by Inner French. So it's an intermediate French learner channel, and I think my statistics for Inner French in Link, I've listened to some of the topics more than 50 times. So I listen to probably 2 a day. That gives me around roughly 60 minutes of listening. And then I watch native series on Netflix. Of course, my comprehension of that compared to if I'm watching it in Portuguese would be very different. A lot of the words I don't understand. A lot of the patterns I haven't recognized. It speaks to the level of French that I have to date, of course. And I have weekly speaking 45 minutes per week. So I know it's not a lot, but I think the progress is slower because, of course, if I speak more, I would encounter more like different situations, different questions, but I just don't have the time for that right now, as life is moving faster than the initial few years of COVID. So I don't have that time anymore to spend for a lot of the speaking. But I found that even if my speaking comes slower, I mean once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, because of the exposure that I have with the constant listening to the podcasts, some of the words are familiar when I see it, and sometimes there are things that I know how to say, and it flows naturally. So there is truth in the idea of, or the theory of what's this, Steve Kaufman, the creator of Link, that as long as you are exposed to the language, keep hearing it, keep listening to it, keep repeating the exposure, things would start to make sense the longer you do it. So although I don't speak a lot compared to when I started with Portuguese, like I was so excited, and then I booked a lot of classes, sometimes 3 in a week. Every time there's a new class and it's like, okay, everything's new, I don't know anything. But with French, even if same thing, I also don't know a lot of words, but there would be gems that, oh, okay, I've encountered this word, I've heard it used in a different context, because I focused right now, at least with French, I'm focused on a lot of listening. What else? I've seen Lupin again. I started the first season, second and third all in French. The first and second season was a recap. I've seen it in English before, but now I watch it in French. And the third season, I started watching entirely in French. Of course, my comprehension is like 30% word comprehension. Context clues with all the actors and the things happening visually, but still, it's exposure. It's more difficult. It's not so comprehensible, but because of the actions and the visuals, context clues, and all of that, I enjoyed the time watching and the exposure. So in 2024, I'm going to continue. But I would also want to read more of the transcripts, because I found that, yes, I can hear and the accent. I'm getting to understand where one word starts and one word ends, when it's a phrase or sentence. But seeing reading the transcripts, I would see, oh, this is the pattern of the grammar. So we start with, it's like, for Portuguese, New Year is Ano Novo, so it's like year new. But in French, it's Nouvel An. So it's also New Year. So those are like some of the things that if you're not exposed to, let's say, Portuguese, if you do a direct translation, it sounds off to a native speaker, right? So that's one of the things that I'm going to focus on with French in 2024, is read more transcripts. Basically read more. Now for Russian. Ooh, Russian's like my new Mandarin right now. Of course, since I only have 200 plus hours and my lifetime hours in Russian is only 700 or 758, it's really a language that I left behind this year, because I focused more on the new one, which is French, and the more comfortable one, which is Portuguese. And honestly, it's also Cyrillic, because even if I tried watching native shows on Netflix, it's difficult to read these subtitles while watching the show, because Cyrillic is something new to me. I only started it in 2020, at the end of 2021, so 2 years of Cyrillic. It's like I'm a 2-year-old. And basically I'm still slow when reading Cyrillic. I think I do listen, but not a lot. So sometimes there are days that I only spent 5 minutes with Russian. And then my speaking would only be 45 minutes per week, or even if I skip a week, so that would be 45 minutes every 2 weeks, something like that. And I would be able to talk about maybe the weather, something that the usual topics that I would open the class with a tutor. So those are the things that I would know how to say in Russian, just randomly. But other than that, I would have difficulty. Like I said, native content in Netflix, I have difficulty with that. So I don't think I'm going to do that anymore in 2024. I think my time will be spent well if I focus on reading things on link. And then probably stick to one topic and read more transcripts, I think, with Russian, and read more books. Because I think listening is good for Russian. I mean, but I I don't know. It's a Cyrillic that I actually struggle with, really. Um, because it's not the Roman alphabet that I'm used to. Mm, so in summary, I was thinking like, should I dabble in Greek next year, or so I thought like, okay, right now probably not. I wouldn't add a new language in 2024. I would probably only consider adding a language if I'm ready to probably not learn one of these. It's either French, Russian, or Portuguese. Or if I decide to. So what I wrote here is like, if I'm able to reach 1,100 hours of Russian, that's the time I would consider studying a different language. But we'll see. There's no real reason for me to actually need to speak Russian that fluently. Um, the trips that I am planning would include Germany, France, Portugal, Spain. Yeah, so Russia not yet. So maybe when like if I decide to visit, Russia, then I would go back to it like um more seriously. But at least the basic I already have. So that's it for this update. I'm going to, like I said, continue with the three languages I have: Portuguese, Russian, and French. Let's see how I progress in 2024 with these three languages. If I decide to add a new one or drop, because as of now, I probably still would not. I would like, especially my French, to reach a higher level, because I probably need it later in the second half or the fourth quarter of 2024. So that's my update for 2023, and I'm excited to move forward in 2024, especially since my level in Portuguese is at a good enough level that I could actually read books, without it being a an alien language to me. I'm pretty excited about finishing the Zahir, and hopefully be able to read more books by Coelho, and look for other books in Portuguese as well. So I hope everyone has a good new year and best wishes and good health, happiness in the year 2024. So it's now almost 6 p.m. Here in Manila time. So 6 more hours until January 1, 2024. And it's not yet noisy with the firecrackers, but it will be later on. And yeah, just wishing everyone all the best this year, and all the best in 2024. So bye and Happy New Year.